Aloha and welcome to the pre-show for the 20th Annual Evening of Aloha Virtual Gala. My name is Stephanie Nagami, and on behalf of the Pacific Bridge Companies and our Ohana, we are honored to be part of this year's gala and introduce this special part of the program. You will see the many Thank a Veteran digital ads submitted by family and friends of veterans. It is a moving example of the appreciation and gratitude for those who willingly served our country, in particular our Nisei World War II veterans. Also featured are the 2021 Essay and Poetry Student Contest winners, along with the new Lawson Ichiro Sakai Scholarship winners. Their participation illustrates how the virtue and value of our veterans continues on with the younger generations. We hope you enjoyed the pre-show, and mahalo nui loa for your continued support of the Go for Broke National Education Center.
Aloha, and welcome to Go for Broke National Education Center's 20th Annual Evening of Aloha Virtual Gala. I'm David Ono, ABC 7 News anchor, member of Go for Broke National Education Center Board of Directors, and your honored host for today's Hallmark celebratory event. To all of our supporters and viewers from across the nation and internationally, we thank you for joining us as we pay tribute to the remarkable legacy of the Japanese American soldiers of World War II. In fact, I am pleased to share with you that my network, ABC 7, is live streaming this event because they too felt it was important to honor and support our veterans. This year, despite not being able to again safely gather in person, we'll bring you the personal stories and perspectives that illustrate how their legacy continues to be meaningful and relevant to younger, more diverse audiences. Our hope is that you leave us with a deeper understanding and appreciation of their courage, patriotism, and sacrifice. Go for Broke National Education Center's mission is to educate and inspire character and equality through the virtue and valor of our World War II American veterans of Japanese ancestry. In order to fulfill this mission, we have significantly expanded our educational programming and outreach far beyond our pre-pandemic reach. In the past 18 months, our YouTube videos have been viewed over 300,000 times. Our two virtual Go for Broke Monument Anniversary programs and last year's Evening of Aloha collectively received over 25,000 views. Our website receives over 150,000 online visitors with over 1.6 million hits on our Learn section. And our social media followers have also increased exponentially. Today, we are excited to bring in special guest hosts to help me showcase the impact of our current work, in particular with our younger audiences. Be sure to also stay tuned to see how our key partners and supporters in Los Angeles, Maui, Oahu, and Denver are engaging with us and the Nisei soldier story. We will also hear from our President and CEO, Dr. Mitch Mackey, later in the program. And if you're joining us for the first time, you might be wondering why we call our gala the Evening of Aloha. Well, let me briefly explain. The Hawaiian word aloha illustrates the values of kindness, humility, and perseverance. In the context of relationships, it is how each person is an important piece of a collective existence. In regard to the Japanese American World War II soldier story, this collective existence is at the core of how the soldiers were able to achieve what they did against all odds. Before we begin our program, a few housekeeping notes. Please be sure to chat with us live on Facebook and YouTube. Share with us from where you are watching and with whom you are watching. And tell us your connection to these Nisei soldier stories. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that because this is our one fundraising event of the year, contributions can be made through our website and on Facebook during and after today's program. Large or small, each gift makes a difference. Let us now hear from George Henning, Chair of Go for Broke National Education Center's Board of Directors and President of Pacific Global Investment Management Company.
Good evening. I am George Henning, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Go for Broke National Education Center. I want to welcome you to this evening's program as we celebrate the legacy of the Japanese American men and women who served so valiantly during World War II. As you will see from tonight's program, we've engaged in many different activities and events during the course of the year, and we're pleased to have this opportunity to share them with you. We hope you enjoy the program and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, George, for your leadership that ensures the continued success and sustainability of our organization. With your guidance and our board of directors, the legacy of the Nisei soldier will remain an important American story for future generations. It is now my pleasure to introduce the traditional posting of the colors by the 100th Battalion, 442nd Infantry Regiment Color Guard from Hawaii, which will be followed by the national anthem sung by the talented Stacy Toji, member of Go for Broke National Education Center Board of Directors, and award-winning singer and musician, Daniel Ho.
Oh, say can you But so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Stacy and Daniel, for such a beautiful rendition of the national anthem, which added such a moving tribute to our veterans and our appreciation to the 100th Battalion, 442nd Infantry Regiment Color Guard. This battalion is the only reserve unit in the U.S. Army to serve in combat, including in Iraq and Afghanistan. The members proudly wear the 100th insignia and feel the responsibility to carry on the formidable legacy of the Japanese-American World War II soldiers. For over 30 years, our organization has succeeded because of its many donors and supporters. During the pandemic, until now, we continue to find so many who share our commitment to the story and our mission. This year, we are fortunate to welcome back many longtime sponsors, including our diamond sponsor, the Aratani Foundation.
Hello everybody, I'm Linda Aratani, and I'm here with my mother, Sakaya Aratani, and we're here to welcome you to this year's Evening of Aloha virtual gala. It's very important to our family that we assure that the stories of the Nisei soldier are preserved. My father was in the military intelligence service, and so that's why to us this is very important. So we appreciate you tuning in, and we hope you enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your long-standing support and for taking time to be part of our program. The success of our organization, and for so many others, are because of the generous dedication from the Aratani Foundation. And we now come to an important part of our program where we acknowledge the veterans who have passed away since our last gala. This moment never gets easier. But I ask each of you to also remember the 33,000 American World War II soldiers of Japanese ancestry who so valiantly and selflessly served our country. To highlight our ties to Los Angeles, Maui, Oahu, and Denver, this year's In Memoriam features 4 moving hula performances from each of these regions. The dancers are Stacy Toji from Los Angeles, Christy Kimura from Maui, Brenda Sekigawa from Oahu, and Lux Omatani from Denver, who is also our youngest dancer at just 7 years of age. And Daniel Ho also performs Aloha Oe for this In Memoriam tribute.
Ha'aheo kauai na pali e ni ha'elai kana hele e uhai ana pahai
Always so difficult to see the many names of the veterans who passed away, but it serves to remind us of the critical importance of our work in keeping their stories alive. We strive to ensure that this remarkable story is never forgotten. Next, I am excited to introduce my first guest host, Lindsay Tsugamoto, who is an attorney for Latham & Watkins, but equally important, she is one of our young torchbearers. That's so important to us, Lindsay. What got you involved with Go for Broke National Education Center?
Hi, David. A little starstruck. I guess what got me involved in Go for Broke National Education Center was my grandpa was in MIS, and my grandma was one of the veteran wives.
What do you think it is about the Nisei soldier story that appeals to you and you know, all of us, quite frankly?
The Nisei War veteran experience is part of my identity as a Japanese American. It gave me context and understanding for why I get so triggered when I see Asian Americans not being respected or understood as full-fledged Americans, why I work so hard to get to the level I am in my career because my grandpa and my grandma made so many sacrifices.
Lindsay, I appreciate you sharing about what your grandfather's service means to you, especially within the context of today's issues surrounding racial tolerance, social justice, civil liberties. We're so fortunate to have your involvement in helping us expand our outreach to your generation. And as you know, this is top of mind for Mitch and staff as they focus on creative programming and other ways to engage with next-gen audiences.
It is an honor for me to be part of this amazing event. I especially am excited to present our next feature, the Living Nisei World War II Veteran Photo Tribute. One of the most treasured Evening of Aloha traditions is the Veteran Roll Call, where we present our beloved veterans on stage. Because we cannot gather again this year, we are pleased to present this touching virtual photo tribute for the second time. Each veteran is proudly featured with a military and current photo. We know these veterans and their families are watching, and we thank each and every one of them for their service and participation. This was a very popular feature of last year's EOA, and I am excited to mention that this year we have 3 female living Nisei veterans. Let us now take a look at the first of 3 photo tribute segments, which are presented in alphabetical order.
So spectacular to see the young faces side by side with the current photos. And it reminds us of how young they were, but also how they lived their lives despite the enormity of their service. Joining me now is Craig Ishi, a member of Go for Broke National Education Center Board of Directors and also works at Inspira. And Craig, I'm so happy to talk to you. You're a real leader in our community. And I'm curious to know what you find important about the Nisei soldier story, and why should people who are not Japanese American care about it?
I think we're going to hear this a lot through the program, but we always say that the Japanese American story during World War II is not just a story for our community, it's really an American story. That's why we love sharing the story about our community to folks who are beyond.
What is it that we are working on currently that gets you excited?
We've got a guest here today, Sierra Kato. She's one of a myriad of different people that have been part of this sort of new initiative to tell the story a little bit differently. So her show, Living the Nisei Dream, I think what excites me about that amongst many of the others is that it's taking a story that we know and love and it's transforming it into something that I think is really digestible, both in length and also medium, to really a community that's beyond. I think that that's really the next evolution of Go for Broke. So just looking at the consistency and how we've evolved every single time makes me hopeful.
I couldn't agree with you more, Craig. In order for the story to continue on, we need to find ways to keep the story alive and part of today's conversations. I'm working on such a project with Go for Broke National Education Center called Letters to Home. During last year's EOA, we put out a call for letters, diaries, and journals to and from Nisei soldiers during the war, and since then we have received an incredible response, over hundreds of documents. But we need more. If you have letters, please send them to us. The project goal is to present an intimate snapshot of what were the feelings and emotions of the soldiers, their friends, and their families at that time. Thanks to a generous grant from the Oye Foundation, we'll begin work next year on a full-length documentary using these touching and telling letters. However, in order to do justice to the many aspects of the soldier's story, we will be focusing on one of the most well-known stories, the rescue of the Lost Battalion. And here's a glimpse of what we're developing. While their family was incarcerated in Amachi concentration camp, the three Okamoto brothers, Ted, John, and Victor, joined the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. Sons of Japanese immigrants born as American citizens, each would find different fates as they fought for America. On April 30th, 1944, John wrote to his parents, "Vic and I came over on the same boat and we're both in the best of health. I don't know where we're going, but I'll try to write as soon as I can. Please don't worry about us as we're both doing well." Unfortunately, John contracted hepatitis and passed away in Italy at the age of 20 on August 2nd, 1944. Upon learning of his brother's death, Victor writes, "He wouldn't want us to weep, but be proud that he gave his life to his country, for that is the greatest thing a man can do." 3 months later, Victor was shot in the leg during the rescue of the Lost Battalion and ended up captured by the Germans. According to German camp records discovered almost 70 years later, his leg was amputated due to sepsis, upon which he asked not to be fed any further and died on December 14, 1944. In his final letter to his parents written on November 4th, he wrote, "I have been wounded and am now in a German hospital somewhere in Germany. So as far as I'm concerned, the war is over for me, as I am a prisoner of war now." The third son, Ted, wanted to join his brothers fighting in Europe, but Victor pleaded with the unit chaplain to make sure Ted would remain stateside during the war. As an official photographer for General MacArthur, Ted served in occupied Japan and was one of the first to photograph the devastation in Hiroshima. His photos are now part of military archives. This is just one of many Nisei family stories that we will be sharing.
I'm also excited about Go for Broke National Education Center's commitment to sharing some of the lesser-known stories about our Nisei veterans. One of the stories that's not widely known is about the Military Intelligence Service. We're working on a new video where we tell the crucial impact that MIS soldiers played before, during, and after the war. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Mitch Mackey, President of Go for Broke National Education Center, and I'm delighted to share with all of you today a brief look at a new two-part episode we are developing for our series, Heroes Among Us, Stories of Courage, Patriotism, and Sacrifice. The contributions from over 6,000 linguists, including the Nisei women who served in the Women's Army Corps, remain classified and intentionally hidden from the public eye until about 3 decades after the end of World War II. Many may not realize the global presence of where these highly trained linguists served, from all over the Pacific, China, Burma, India, stateside, Europe, Latin America, and North Africa. And many may not fully understand the pivotal role the MIS played during occupied Japan that ultimately brought former enemies to become close allies even to this day. Trained intensively at the Military Intelligence Language School in San Francisco and later in Minnesota, the MIS worked individually or in small units and held the important tasks of translating captured enemy documents, intercepting enemy communications, interrogating POWs, creating propaganda, and participating in war crime trials. Like other Japanese American soldiers, the MIS Nisei were the objects of constant suspicion and fear, and had to work doubly hard to prove their loyalty as Americans, despite being responsible for highly classified information. From our Hanashi interviews, we find the personal recollections of how the Nisei linguists, many of whom were Kibe, raised or educated in Japan before the war, skillfully integrated their intelligence training with their intricate understanding of the Japanese language and culture. They were the eyes and ears of the United States in the fight against Japan. Their jobs were often dangerous and made more difficult by their tenuous position within the armed forces. One such story of courage, patriotism, and sacrifice centers on the wedding of Kazuo Yamane, one of the first 4 Nisei assigned to the Pacific Order of Battle Office of Military Intelligence at the then new Pentagon. Their work provided detailed information about 40,000 regular and reserved Japanese officers. In his next assignment at Pakmir, he made another significant intelligence discovery and was then immediately assigned to Eisenhower's headquarters in Europe for a special mission. Kazuo was told that he may not survive and that he would be given a 2-week furlough to get married. On October 12, 1944, Kazuo married Mary Shiomura in Baltimore, Maryland. For Kazuo, without hesitation, he wanted to serve his country, knowing he may never see his young bride again. These are the stories that bring to life the decisions and challenges the Nisei soldiers faced while their loyalty was still questioned by the country they served. We look forward to presenting this more in-depth look at the little-known contributions and personal reflections of the Military Intelligence Service Nisei. Please watch for this and future episodes of Heroes Among Us.
Another one of our dedicated supporters is MUFG Union Bank. I'm pleased to present a message from Mr. Kazuo Koshi, Executive Chairman of MUFG Union Bank.
Aloha, everyone. I hope you're all well. The mission of the Go for Broke National Education Center is to educate and inspire character and equality. I cannot think of anything more noble and necessary today. MUFG Union Bank is delighted to be a Ruby sponsor of this event again this year. And I am privileged to introduce the Living Nisei World War II veteran photo tribute in honor of their valiant effort. Thank you all for your support of this terrific organization. Mahalo.
Some of you may recognize our next guest, Sierra Kato, an actor, comedian, and host of our new series, Living the Nisei Dream. It's great to meet you.
Oh, it's so exciting to meet you.
How did you come to Go for Broke National Education Center, and then how is it going with your new show?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I think it was a very serendipitous event. I actually just answered a casting call, and then I met with them, and then they're like, oh, we're from Go for Broke National Education Center. We're thinking about this new series, and I just immediately was like, oh my God, yes. I am half Japanese American. I'm Yonsei too, and I grew up knowing that my grandparents were incarcerated, and I thought that story was not told as much, and I wanted to spread that word more. Then when I heard about the fact that they're connecting it with my generation, I thought, yes, I would love to do this. Please let me do this, and the rest is history.
How much did you actually know about what your grandparents lived through?
I didn't even know until I started working with Go for Broke that my grandfather was in the MIS. I think it just had never really come up. And it opened the conversation where I was able to talk with my dad about his dad. And yeah, so that sort of has really helped me learn more about my own family. It's yeah, there was actually, a lot of Japanese Americans who fought for America in World War II, despite their families being incarcerated at the time. And just that alone, they're like, whoa, that is a really American story. I'm surprised I haven't heard of that before. So I think it's just yeah, it's a great a discussion starter.
Well, I love hearing your story. I love meeting you, and your talent is so important to us because you can help tell this story to your generation.
And up next is something I'm very happy to introduce. One, because I'm in it, along with some of the other LA-based torchbearers. And two, of more significance, it is a montage of some really interesting and thoughtful conversations that our very own Mitch Maki had with our partners and supporters in Los Angeles, Maui, Oahu, and Denver. David, I know everyone will love seeing how each region had its own character, but also there were more commonalities in regard to the engagement and sense of responsibility to carry on the legacy of the Nisei soldiers. It's also very powerful to see how young and old saw their soldiers' legacy as part of their own identity. So please check out this great montage segment.
Hey everyone. The very best part of what we do at Go for Broke National Education Center is when we connect with people around the Nisei veteran story. Different generations, different ages, different genders. Young adults in particular. And when we connect, when we share the power of the Nisei veteran story, it's magical. Let me show you. First stop, Denver, Colorado.
Hi, I'm John Campbell. We're here at Fairmount Cemetery in Denver, Colorado. I'd like to welcome Go for Broke National Education Center, and specifically Mitch Maki.
Hey John, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Tell me about this place.
So we're at Fairmount Cemetery in Denver, Colorado. Behind us is our Nisei Veteran Memorial. You're going to see the names of veterans that were killed in action. So here's everyone.
Thanks for being here. Looking forward to having a great conversation. Matthew, why don't we start with you? How you're related to the story, what the story means to you as a person.
I had a couple great uncles that fought in the 442nd. My grandfather, he went to Japan as a translator. The story really makes me prideful of what they did, because even though when Japanese Americans, they were in internment camps, they got their property taken from them, they got their lives taken away from them, but the 442nd still wanted to fight for the country.
My grandpa served in the military as well as a translator. My great uncle did as well. I see a lot of vets coming home now and that powerful story, and for me, it's to carry that forward, that bravery.
My great uncle, George Tsugamoto, served in the 442. His best friend was shot right in front of him and died in his arms. For a lack of better words, he was just pissed off. Went by himself and he captured multiple Germans by himself.
It's nice to have heroes that you can relate to.
One time when I was playing baseball, I was on second base and a kid just came up to me and asked where I'm from. And I said, Denver. And he said, no, where are you really from?
My great uncle receiving the Medal of Honor has really made me reflect on my Japanese heritage.
Showing that bravery gives me motivation to give back and raise voices. We can honor those who came before us and really continue to build up the community.
What's important is what you do for other people and what you do for your community, and I think that's what he really embodied in his life.
What would you say to him if you were here today?
I'd let him know how much his life and legacy has had an impact on my life. Oh my God, why am I crying?
I've seen the interview with your great uncle where he talks about holding his best friend. Now you got me crying here. It brings up the saying, Okage-sama Day. Because of them, we are. We're sitting here because of them.
The story may be 80 years old, but you can see that the identities of these young folks continues to be shaped by the Nisei veterans' legacy. Colorado is a state rich in the Japanese-American history of World War II. Amachi concentration camp, Governor Carr welcoming Japanese Americans to come live in the state, Medal of Honor recipients like Joe Sakato, the 4-generation-owned Pacific Mercantile Company. We are so proud to be engaged with them all.
Your father was a part of the unit that liberated the satellite of Dachau.
Yes.
What did he tell you about that?
You know, he really kept it to himself for many years, but, you know, it made him proud, you know, to tell his story to, you know, our family.
How do you think the story plays for people who are not Japanese American?
I hope they're learning lessons because history has repeated itself. And I mean, it's a tragic history that you don't want to repeat. You want people to learn those lessons that even though you may look different, you are still an American at heart.
It's a courageous story. It's an important story because if we look to it, then we still have a lot to learn from it.
They're as much of a shining example of great humanity and great American spirit. It's still rooted in such a tragic beginning. We need to understand, we need to appreciate.
If you're in the Denver area, come visit Pacific Mercantile Company. You won't be disappointed.
Come with me now to Honolulu and meet our partners at the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii. We've been working with them on creating and disseminating high school curriculum about the Nisei veterans of Hawaii. You're gonna meet some young folks, and you're gonna meet Jane and Betsy, both of whom are a bit older than me, but have the youngest spirits I know.
Aloha, my name is Brianne Yamada and I am the 69th Cherry Blossom Festival Queen, Miss Popularity and Miss Congeniality. Here today, we are at the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii in Honolulu, and we would like to welcome Go for Broke National Education Center. So can you tell us why is it important to partner with organizations just like this?
Over the last few years, we've been working very closely with JCCH. A couple of years ago, we brought a traveling exhibit called Courage and Compassion. We believe that this is not just a great Japanese-American story, it's a great American story. Here you are, the Executive Director of the JCCH, and why is this story important to JCCH?
This story is definitely a huge part of the whole experience, starting from the Ganen Mono, the first people who came, all the way to the veterans, the Nisei, on through the Sansei generation, my parents, you know, your generation, and now as a Yonsei, you know, I'm here because of all of that work. My grandfathers had to serve their country, and yet they were questioned, but they went out there and, you know, sacrificed their lives, and it shaped post-war Hawaii. The veterans' role is definitely a part of that foundation that I get to stand on here and that the JCCH is built on.
Hey Jane, hey Betsy.
Hey Mitch, how are you?
How are you?
Great. Good.
Jane, tell us about this curriculum that JCCH has been working on with Go for Broke.
The Nisei soldier story is very important, and the mainland story has been told, and we felt that we needed to tell the Hawaii story as well.
The boys from Hawaii embody patriotism, courage, sacrifice, and deep, deep-rooted the spirit of Aloha.
What does the spirit of Aloha mean to you?
It's not about me, it's about we.
Each person is important to every other person for collective existence.
My husband, who was in the 100th as a replacement, told me, listen, when we're in battle, you take care of each other. This is part of the Aloha spirit. Our kids have to know this. If we lost that Aloha spirit because we were at war, we would have lost something so great.
When I was looking at these stories, I just thought, like, there's so much that I don't know. To read the story and feel so inspired from the start just made me think, what is it that I can do for the community that's even comparable to what these Nisei veterans did? It's a very humbling experience to be able to know what they did for what we have now.
My grandpa had a certain work ethic. He, after the war, came home, used his GI Bill, and went to school and got an accounting degree. He went into the office until he was 94 years old. Something in me that makes me want to continue to be the best possible and push the hardest that I can. And I think a lot of that comes from watching him.
Would I go? Would you go? And I don't know if I would go. And I think that is a big awakening for my generation. How everyone is like, well, you know, what about me and my rights? That's not the attitude that they had.
They literally lived by and worked by Shigeo Yoshida's quotation. The way Hawaii lives and treats each other during the war will affect how Hawaii will be after the war.
Have a great evening of Aloha. Kapai.
Kapai. Oahu is also so rich in Japanese American history. Pearl Harbor, Honouliuli, Iolani Palace, the origins of the 100th Infantry Battalion separate. Our friendships in Hawaii, however, don't only exist on Oahu. They also include the Nisei Veterans Memorial Center on Maui. Deidre Teagarden and her friends welcomed us there.
Welcome, my name is Rochelle Owe, board member of the Nisei Veterans Memorial Center, and we're so excited to have Go for Broke National Education Center here today. I would love to introduce our director, Deidre Teagarden.
Hi, Rochelle.
Hi.
Hey, welcome to the Nisei Veterans Memorial Center. We love our collaboration with the Go for Broke National Education Center. And Rochelle, isn't it great to be standing in front of this mural done by Kirk Kurakawa? It is a legacy piece to our Nisei veterans.
My junior year of college, I took a literature and war class, and we had a poli-sci discussion on whether it was right or not for America to bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I was the only Japanese American in that class, and I had nothing to say. That summer, we had a family reunion, and I found out that I had an auntie in Hiroshima, and she was there during the bombing, and she survived. Then I found out that I had all these aunties in California who were interned. I was like, oh my gosh, my family is so directly tied to these big moments of history.
Senator Inoue and Spark Matsunaga, I mean, so when I was working in DC, hearing about them and how much they've made an impact in Congress, it made me proud to be Japanese American.
Well, my whole life is being a 442 son. The influence my dad had, he was the spark that ignited that flame in my heart and my mind that this is important. And then eventually I even found out that my father-in-law was with the 442nd.
One of my uncles, he started out in the 1399, which was the construction engineer battalion on Oahu. When I spoke to my cousin about that, she goes, oh, no, Dad was a waiter at Schofield. He went through his entire life convincing his family that he spent the entire war being a waiter at Schofield Barracks. He was in the military intelligence service.
The big difference here was that everybody was so proud of their Niseis and their action and their heroes versus in Japan, because they lost the war. It was something you are kind of ashamed of, that nobody even want to talk about it.
You look at every single one of these stories and go, wow, would I have done that? And to them, it was just something they had to do.
We're being out of touch with these values that these Nisei men had and the Nisei women, you know, who supported them had. And I just hope that we can somehow come back to it, to these stories.
That bond that they had, you know, going to war together was important. So they continued it even when they came home.
They've made this place better, and it is now our responsibility to ensure that we share that with the next generation.
This small island of Maui, the legacy of the Nisei veteran is, for the community, the value is a lot larger, I felt.
No doubt about it, the Maui community may be smaller than some other locations, but their fierce pride in the story is unmatched. Our last stop on this journey is the city in which we are physically located, Los Angeles. When I first came to Go for Broke National Education Center, one of my goals was to create and nurture a cadre of young adults, a group of individuals who would care for and protect the Nisei veteran story, who would connect with it in their own unique generational way, who would be the ones to carry the story into the future. We now have this group. We call them the Torchbearers.
Hey, I'm Sierra Kato, and I'm here at the Go for Broke Monument, located in the historic J-Town area in downtown LA. And the Go for Broke National Education Center has been working on something very special right here. So to tell us a little bit more about it, let's meet a couple of friends.
Hello, hi, hey. So this is Stacy Toji and Emiko Kranz, and they're both on the board of directors of Go for Broke National Education Center. So I've been hearing a lot about something special happening here. Would you mind telling us a little about that?
Yeah, definitely. We're actually standing right next to the future home of the First Street North building project. Go for Broke is in the process of building a 6-story building.
Another amazing thing about this project is that it's reactivating this part of Little Tokyo that used to have so much life in it, but was taken away by eminent domain. So what we're all looking forward to is reclaiming this space and giving it some new life.
So Stacy, I heard you have a family member on the monument. Do you know where they are?
Yeah, absolutely. Mitch actually just showed me today. This is my Uncle Pius Yanagi. He was 442. And it's really special to me because now every time I'm in Little Tokyo, I can come and say hi to Uncle Pi.
This is random, but I just wanted to ask, like, you know, you're both on the board of directors of Go for Broke National Education Center, but you're also both really young, and I guess I'm wondering why.
Actually, there are a lot of young adults like us who are actively engaged with the organization. We do a lot of really wonderful work with them, and I heard they're actually getting breakfast at Far Bar right now, so y'all
Without us? Oh, we gotta get in on that.
Come on. Let's go.
Hey, I'm here at Far Bar in Little Tokyo, and apparently the Torchbearers are inside having breakfast, so let's go find out why Go for Broke National Education Center is so important to them.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to Far Bar for having us here, and look at the spread, and really it is a multicultural breakfast. So let's dig in and have a good conversation. What would you want your children to know about this story?
As our country gets more diverse and hopefully more accepting, that heroes come in all shapes, sizes, races, gender.
These guys who kind of looked like us, 18, 19 years old, volunteering for service for a country that didn't trust them, imprisoned them, and they said, I'm gonna do my duty to my country.
They gave up a lot. I'm able to enjoy now, like being able to go to college and go to grad school and have the career that I want to.
The story of internment or incarceration in veterans, we just assume that they know. A lot of times when we are doing workshops, you realize, oh my God, they have no clue. Maybe didn't even realize that a family member, right, was connected to a particular story.
I remember when I first heard that, most highly decorated unit, well, something's wrong with this. It just didn't fit my worldview as a 10-year-old kid about who Japanese Americans were in America, right? And then to embrace it and say, damn, we were bad. You know, these guys did something nobody else did. For your generation, for your age, for your background, for your experiences, what are these What does this story mean to you?
You know, we can take the vets as inspiration for others who might be in communities that do face racial discrimination. So, you know, I think it's a very important story to tell.
I'm lucky that I had this entry point, which was my family, but I think anybody can come on board because it's clearly like a really fascinating story.
Heck, we're at a restaurant right now in Little Tokyo owned by a third-generation Japanese American, right? If these guys hadn't done what they had done, would he be able to own this space, you know? Or would this space not even exist? Would Little Tokyo not exist? A lot of it stems from this story of grit, sacrifice, and just commitment to your family and your community, and honestly, like allegiance to your country.
Some of the emotions I had growing up being a mixed person, I thought I was being dramatic, but then hearing, you know, all these other people's stories, bonding over that shared trauma.
One of my sorority sisters had said to me, like, who do you think is more American? And she pointed to herself and then a friend next to her. It was like I was not American. At that moment, like, I felt so liberated because I just let loose. I think I actually might be more American. Did your grandpa fight for the US ever? No? Well, mine did.
Being fourth generation or Yonsei is like, I see myself more as American than Japanese. My uncle passed away. I found out in his obituary, you know, that he had served. Sorry, give me 1 second. I found out in his obituary that he had served, and I think that at that moment, I don't think I've been more proud to say that I was Japanese American. Sorry.
No, man. You know, you are carrying on the best of your grandparents, and in doing so, you keep their legacy alive. So while they made you proud of being Japanese American, I think you make us proud. You are the American dream that they came here for.
The legacy of the Nisei veterans is really fighting for the future of those they love, but also those that they would never know.
The story doesn't change. I think the way that we tell it is going to change.
I hope that you've enjoyed meeting our friends and supporters from 4 different locations. Clearly, you do not need to have a veteran in your family to identify with the story. You don't need to be Japanese American to identify with the story. You only need to appreciate the values of courage, sacrifice, and obligation to others to identify with the Nisei veteran story. The folks that you just met are the essence of Go for Broke National Education Center and the work that we do. As Emiko said at the far bar, the legacy of our Nisei veterans was in fighting for the future of those they love and those they would never know. Okage-sama de. Because of them, we are. Because of them, we will continue to be.
It is now time for the third and final segment of the Living Nisei World War II Photo Tribute. First, I want to mention that this photo tribute was a collective effort with the Nisei Veterans Organizations and our volunteer committee. Thank you to all of those who worked meticulously to capture as many of our Living Nisei as possible. Here to help introduce this segment is General Robert Lee.
Aloha, I'm Major General Robert Lee, United States Army retired, and I am pleased to be here with you today to pay tribute to the Japanese American soldiers of World War II. The legacy and spirit of the Nisei soldiers has particular meaning to me as I serve as Battalion Commander of the 100th Infantry Battalion, 442nd Infantry Regiment, United States Army Reserve. The soldiers that followed in your footsteps lived up to the high standards that you established during World War II. They were the top soldiers that served from Vietnam to Iraq. Each year, the Evening of Aloha allows us to formally remember the Nisei soldiers who have passed and recognize those who are still with us today. I'm especially honored to introduce the last segment of the Living Nisei World War II Veterans Photo Tribute. Mahalo, and thank you for your service to our country.
Seeing all of the photos come together and settling on the Go for Broke monument is so striking. The photos seem to come alive, but they also really fill me with gratitude for the service. The phrase "okage samade," because of you I am, says it all. Thank you again to our veterans and their families for their participation, and most of all, thank you to our veterans for your courage, patriotism, and sacrifice. Next, let me welcome back Craig Ishi to get his take on what we have just presented to all of you. So Craig, Go for Broke National Education Center has been trying to innovate, working really hard during these difficult times. And you know, in the old days, we used to have people come to us. But now, through our innovations, we've been able to actually reach people all over the world. Why is that important, especially when it comes to reaching the younger generation?
Sure, David. From a programming perspective, what makes Go for Broke National Education Center unique is that there's a willingness to observe, to listen, to truly share a seat around the table. And the people stick around because they're empowered. And the programming sticks because it's been created, vetted, and evaluated by the very generation that it seeks to speak to. Yes, the organization has been able to be agile, but even more key is our ability to make people feel like they're part of the story. It's truly an honor to serve with him on this board. I'm humbled to now introduce our president and CEO, Mitch Maki. Let's hear what he has to say about where we've come and where we're going.
I wanted to start my comments tonight with saying what a crazy year it's been. But the truth is, we all already know that. We not only know it, we lived it. Through it all, you continued to support us. Thank you. Over the last year, we focused on different ways to share the Nisei veteran story with different regions of our country, the different people of our nation, and the different generations of our community. As a result, our reach in telling this story has exponentially expanded, and the depth to which we are touching the hearts of Americans, young Americans in particular, has deepened like never before. In the last year, we told the historic stories of the Gothic Line and Kazuo Masuda. We shared the heartwarming story of Fernando Sosa Masuda and connecting him with the son of a fellow soldier. One of our videos has been reviewed by influencers on YouTube and has been seen by over 300,000 viewers across the world. We are currently working on stories of the MIS and of a segregated Puerto Rican unit that served in World War II. Private companies such as Twitter, Apple, Volkswagen, and City National Bank have requested and received virtual lectures for their employees. The TV network, A&E, noticed our work. They reached out and created a 1-minute public service announcement that has been seen by hundreds of thousands of people across the nation.
The Nisei soldiers like Yosh Nakamura were fighting not only the enemy, but the perception that they weren't true Americans. They were fighting against racial prejudice back home to demonstrate that they had a rightful place in American society. When I was growing up and I learned about the history of our nation, it was primarily white stories, white faces, and white heroes. But the truth is, our nation has been built by people of all colors, of all backgrounds. And it's important that we tell these stories so that all Americans can appreciate what each other has done to make our nation as great as it is.
For more voices impacting our culture and their communities, visit aetv.com/voicesmagnified.
This was followed up by the History Channel contacting us and making us the consulting producers of a 1-hour documentary called Hidden Heroes, the Nisei Soldiers of World War II. The documentary aired just 2 days ago and will be viewed by millions of viewers. Here's a quick peek.
It's not just a great Japanese-American story, it's a great American story.
Witness the untold bravery of World War II's Nisei soldiers.
Japanese men wanted to serve so badly.
They're the most decorated unit in military history.
And how they fought 2 battles.
They were fighting the Nazis, but they were also fighting racism of our nation.
They fought for the ideals of American democracy.
Hidden Heroes, the Nisei Soldiers of World War II, Thursday, November 11th at 8 on the History Channel.
Clearly, the story of our Nisei veterans, even though it is 80 years old, still has great appeal and a great message for our nation and the world. A second initiative to which we have dedicated considerable time and energy is the building of a permanent home for our organization. As many of you may know, our Go for Broke monument currently sits in the middle of a parking lot. Over the last year, in partnership with the Little Tokyo Service Center, we have made tremendous strides in making this future building a reality. We have renderings, we have community and commercial support and interest, and we are in the process of securing city and state funding. This mixed-use building will have over 200 permanent, affordable housing units, 30,000 square feet of commercial space, and be a permanent home for Go for Broke National Education Center. It will be financed using governmental funding, low-income and new enterprise tax credits, and commercial investment. To me, our expanded reach and our progress toward a permanent home are incredibly exciting. But what is most exciting is that the lessons and values of our Nisei veterans continues to deeply resonate with young adults. You've seen them in our program tonight. Young adults who build their identities from the legacy of the Nisei veterans. Young adults who embrace the values of perseverance, obligation to others, and sacrifice. To me, This is the very essence of our work. To be a part of the transfer of these values and lessons from the Nisei to our future generations of Americans. As you know, tonight is a fundraiser. It's a time of year when I come directly to all of you and ask for your support. Our reach is expanding through our media productions. Our physical future is being secured in a new building. Most important, our mission of preserving the legacy of our Nisei veterans is taking place in the hearts of young people with whom we work. I ask for your help and support in maintaining our progress. Whatever you can give to support our mission is greatly appreciated. Any amount that you can give helps to ensure that we will be able to continue to share the Nisei veteran story with upcoming generations of all Americans. Thank you. Thank you for your support and for sharing your time with us today.
With the magic of technology, we were able to connect with so many of you today throughout the country and abroad. Hopefully, we have inspired you all to appreciate the legacy of the American World War II soldiers of Japanese ancestry as not a Japanese-American story, but a great American story. Also, please go back and watch or re-watch the pre-show, which featured the Thank a Veteran tribute ads, the 2021 Go for Broke National Education Center Student Essay and Poetry winners, and a new scholarship award, the Lawson Ichiro Sakai Memorial Scholarship, funded by Lawson's family and friends. Finally, as I think about the many conversations I have been fortunate to have had with the Nisei veterans and their family members, one thing never leaves me and remains part of my identity, like our young supporters, is their sense of obligation to others and to the community. Between the pandemic and anti-Asian hate, these past 18 months only have underscored the urgency and purpose of our work. Please continue to stay connected with us on our social media channels. Visit our newly launched website, subscribe to our online eTorch newsletter, and become a member or donor. Every gift makes a difference. Their legacy, our history, their history, our future. On behalf of the Go for Broke National Education Center leadership, staff, volunteers, and our veterans and their families, thank you for taking time to be with us. We also give our deepest thanks and appreciation to our 20th annual Evening of Aloha sponsors and supporters who continue to believe in our mission. We will now present the retiring of the flags by the 100th Battalion, 442nd Infantry Regiment Color Guard from Hawaii, followed by a replay of America the Beautiful from this year's Go for Broke Monument Anniversary, sung by Kendall Yokoyama. The post-show, the sponsor, and supporter roll call will officially close the 20th annual Evening of Aloha virtual gala. Thanks for being with us. Please be safe and be well.
Order. Halt. Let's turn. Halt. Up. Up. Up.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more loved